Okay, so a bit of an impromptu video. There was one that kind of came up because, look, this is going to be video 3 inside of this. What will ultimately be 9 videos. And some of the things we're going to be getting into, there's going to be a question that will pop up. And we were talking about one of the videos, and I was like, as soon as people see this stuff, they're going to say, HK hates me, why can't I get it here? And we're like, why don't we just do a video real quick, just kind of organic, to address why you can't get certain things.
Sure. Which is a common, I was under that impression for a long time.
Very common.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, they hate civilians, they'll never take care of commercial market. Because I've been told that from guys in the industry that were in it longer than me.
Sure.
Having met you, worked with HK on some things, that's not necessarily the truth.
No, it's not, and I think all too often it's almost like I feel like 30 seconds after the video post, somebody's already had it ready, copy and pasted on their desktop to drop it in. HK sucks and we hate you kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is the people you can talk all you want, and you're never going to convince them that's how they think, or they're just trolling that kind of concept. But I think a lot of it is a misunderstanding about several factors. One, and you see it all the time, the videos you're going to do here, you're going to shoot all these cool weapons, and why can't I have a 416? Why won't H&K sell me an MP7A2, whatever that is? And for those people, hopefully, they're smart enough to know that has nothing to do with H&K as a company. They're in the
a lot of hope there.
Yeah, in the U.S., H&K has to operate under the laws that the U.S. government possesses. One of those has to do with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and specifically the 1986 machine gun restrictions that prevent the manufacture and sale to normal civilians of machine guns after that date. And MP7 falls into that category. So as an average civilian, just law-abiding citizen, I can't own that. Not because H&K doesn't want to sell it to me, but because the U.S. government says you don't. Now, there are other ways around it. If you really want it, you can do what I did. You go out, you get yourself an FFL, you get yourself an SOT, you get yourself a law letter, and you go and you buy one. And that is a possible route.
Which will run you
a lot.
Right around 50, 60,000 from what I heard?
No, it didn't cost me that.
No?
The prices have gone up on
I've heard they've gone up
significantly. Thankfully, it didn't cost me that to get into it, but it is expensive, but there is a route.
But why don't they make a civilian semi-auto?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's another take on it. And I would say that if you understand that the U.S. government laws related to machine guns won't allow it, then you have to understand, okay, well, can you make a civilian version of it? And sometimes those things are affected not by our own U.S. laws, but they've got to get approved through ATF to be imported and approved for sale. But now you have to deal with German laws and restrictions as well. And Germany, as the country that H&K Germany operates out of, has regulations that deal with weapons of war proliferation. And so there's an additional kind of hurdle you've got to get over to say that this weapon that I want to sell commercially has some sporting purpose and is not an assault rifle, not meant for war, and you've got to cross over those things. So those are not things that happen over time.
Can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. So because we consider like AR-15s a modern sporting rifle, is that why we have a 416 and an MR-556?
That's exactly.
Whereas
MR stands for match rifle.
Match rifle, which MP7 was specifically designed for what it was designed for. It would be hard to justify that specific weapon than to bring to the civilian market.
We haven't had a solution to that yet.
Yeah.
They did that with the civilian version of the MP5. SP5 stands for Sporting Purpose 5. So they didn't put it in the name. So you've got to find a way around that thing. So I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it's a little more difficult for a gun like an MP7. So that's a challenge that has to be done. And I can't speak for H&K. You're sitting over my shoulder right now. But what I can tell you is that they hear you. They are listening to the demands when people say, I want this or I want that, or why won't you update this model? And they are working within their capabilities to do those things. So there are things that I think the H&K fan base is going to be very excited to see coming ahead here in the future. You just have to understand that you have to be patient. I think there's also a misunderstanding, and sometimes it comes from the other kind of gun companies that we have so many of here in the U.S. that are directly focused on the commercial civilian fan base. That's where they make all their money. That's what they're doing. H&K as a company has always been primarily focused on the military and law enforcement side. The commercial side, they definitely want to support, but it's kind of a byproduct of those other weapons they're doing.
Okay.
So when you think about, why, I get this a lot. They say, hey, I can't find a Mark 23 anywhere. Are they even making those anymore? I think there's a misconception, again, that at H&K Germany, there's a separate assembly line for every single model they're making, and they're just turning these things out 24/7. They don't understand is they'll make a batch of a certain weapon based off of projections for sales of what they did last year, what they expect to do this year, orders have come in, whatever, and then they retool and they make another gun and so on. And when they have large government contracts for the Marine Corps and the Army and the German Army and whoever else globally, those things are going to take priority over you getting a new P2000 pistol, on there. So,
which some people might get mad about. Sure. At the same time, it's like, dude, if it's like supporting warfighters, like doing what they're supposed to, and maybe we take a little back seat, like, I don't.
Well, and
I'm
that's
kind of okay taking
that's
it,
the
right?
origins of the company. It's like it was, and we'll get to some of that stuff later on in the series. But it's like, look, once you go back to how the thing started, I by the way, I know everyone right now is like, oh, Chris and Jake just selling out for HK. It's not really it. We're actually trying to bring you some clarity on. Look, you're all going to comment about this. Why can't I get this? This is cool, great. So here's why.
Here's the answer.
You think HK doesn't want to sell you guns?
Oh, hey, Jake,
what are you, nuts?
We don't want to make money.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, are you nuts? They sell guns, but they don't want to sell you guns? Like, of course they do.
Yep. So on that question, when somebody says, hey, I can't find this gun or whatever, what I would tell them, now that if you understand that they produce these weapons in batches, that may be the only time in that year that you're going to see Mark 23s come in. If that's the gun you really want, well, then you should probably have that money set aside. So when it starts showing up at the gun stores online or wherever, then you can purchase it and you understand that.
Look, I just waited 6-7 months for a USP, and it's like,
It's because when the batch of USPs was coming in, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I waited half a year to get my USP recently. So it's like, you're not the only guy in the world that's having a hard time getting certain guns. It's like, dude, we're all kind of in the same boat here.
Yep, and it goes not just for the firearms, but for the parts as well. Yeah. I'll have a lot of conversations, especially with law enforcement agencies, and for whatever reason, they come to me for information, and that's great.
Well, you're the guy.
You're kind of a subject matter expert.
You're the guy. Your voice,
humble son of a gun.
Your voice lures people in.
I'm happy to help, but a lot of times what it is it's that guy, within the department who's really the gun-related guy, and he's looking at some year-end money to spend that isn't going to cross over the fiscal year, and he's calling to say, hey, I want to get 416s for the department. I got to take it to the chief. How do I sell that to him? And I'll dig a little deeper and I say, well, if that money's not going to roll over and it's got to be spent 3 months, well, you're probably not going to get those guns or those parts because they're being made in Germany. It's going to take a while to get there. And for the law enforcement military community, there's an additional thing called an end user certificate. It's a requirement that H&K has to get from that agency, present through the German government to get approval to use a weapon of war that's going to go back. That whole process can take much longer than that time window. So what I will tell those guys, if you're watching those things and you want those guns for your agency or whatever, is you need to be a little bit more forward thinking in saying, hey, I need to plan this thing 6, 9, 12 months out so that the money's appropriated for something next fiscal year that's going to come in. And I think all too often we're used to the easy button. I want it now. And if you've got some other company who's saying, hey, I can get you these things next week, then you're less likely to want to do the due diligence and hold out for something else you want. Sure. So again, it's not a factor of H&K not wanting to sell you those items. It's a factor of all of the outside requirements that have to come into play and be met.
I mean, it's a fascinating thing. We'll wrap this up, but I mean, it's a fascinating thing, and I think, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone do explanations on like, all right, look guys, here's the deal. Here's how this works. Here's why you can't get certain things. And
I also just don't think that it's common knowledge.
No, it's not.
Because again, like, I especially after dinner last night, thought HK had, not in a bad way, but had like thousands of employees, right?
Yep.
And they have like 1,000,
Sure.
right? So then when you bring that globally, so you bring that into perspective, like retooling machines, limited batch stuff, like the odds are a little stacked against you, but it's because it's quality things. They make a good product that lasts forever and are in high demand. So you're fighting kind of a bunch of uphill battles. Plus the weapons proliferation thing, which I'm assuming after World War II that came into place.
I'm not sure when the time frame came, but it's definitely been more restrictive as the years have gone on. But I think going to your point about the understanding of that, and we've talked about this before, in lots of different companies I've worked with, there's this misconception that people think that they can, they're going to call customer service, and there's this bank of, receptionists with headphones on, as far as the cubicles can go, and that's not the case. A lot of companies, and H&K USA is one of those examples, they don't have a lot of those people. Their repair shop, they've only got 2 guys in the repair shop. Why? Because the guns don't break a lot, and there's not many people going in. They've got a small U.S. footprint. They do more with less. But that means that they aren't going to have that same capability to respond that Glock, who's got 20 sales reps in the state of Georgia running around at any kind of day. So if you can appreciate that and then be a little bit more patient with what those things are, then you can understand it. And as always, I'm always happy to help answer the question and point guys in the right direction. There's not a lot of no's. There just may be a little bit of waiting that's involved with some of those things.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope that brings some clarity, you guys. It's a question a lot of us have had at various points. So brings a little clarity. Ask questions below. We'll answer them you'll answer them because we don't know what we're talking about. But
I'll give you an answer. It may not be the right one.
Someone smarter than us will answer your question. So thanks for tuning in. And next time, we're going to get a little spicy on the next episode.